welcome to Club Connect, and this is our family. This guy over here is Jerry Millen.
And that's Vidya Shaker.
This is Tara Sendelbach. And that's Odell Nails.
And this is Natalie Cosby.
And we want to welcome you to our family show.
It's great to have everybody here.
Now, everybody you know is a part of a family in some way. Now, Terry, have you ever heard that saying, you can pick your friends, but you cannot pick your family?
Yeah, I've heard that one. That's really true, Odell. But you know, with all those people living so closely together and knowing each other so well, there's bound to be some problems.
And that's what we're going to talk about today. Every family has its problems, you know, some a little bit more than others, but we've narrowed it down to what we feel are 4 definitely important family issues.
And Natalie and Jerry and Vidya and Odell and I and all the teens you see here in the studio and even some experts are going to try and help you find solutions to those family problems.
Tara, who's going to get us started?
Natalie?
Let's go for Natalie.
Thank you, guys. Now, what we got going throughout this program, we've got student actors who are going to take us right there to a family situation. And you guys out here, we're going to ask you what you think. So I need some student actors. Okay, this is the situation. We've got a younger-older brother conflict. Now, these guys are going to a game. This is Larry. He's the older brother. This is his friend Molly. And this is his friend Ken, and they are going to a game.
Hey, guys, we're going to have a lot of fun at the game.
Yeah, I'm bringing Molly with us.
Hey, that's great. We can pick up Diane on the way.
Now, in walks the younger brother of Larry, Billy, and Billy's friend. They want to go to the game.
What's up, guys?
Yeah, man, when you going to pick us up? No way, man, as we taking your little brother and his friend.
Be cool, man. They won't bother us.
Well, the conflict here, should Larry take his younger brother to the game? Odell?
You guys heard it. What do you think Larry should do? What would you do if you were Larry?
Well, I would take my little brother, because if you don't, I have 2 other brothers, and they never take me anywhere, and I'd be feeling pretty small, so I would take him.
Now, that's easy to say. Sure, you take your little brother. Your older friends don't think you're cool. Would you take your little brother?
No, I mean, they have their dates and stuff with them. No.
Okay, well, let's see what happens if the situation gets even hotter. Natalie?
Now, the situation does get worse. Although Larry does decide to take Billy and his friend to the game,
Yes.
Just pretend like y'all ain't even with us.
Billy is starting to question Larry and Ken's relationship. How? This is what's happening at that game.
Hey, guys, look what I got. I got some beer.
How'd you get that, Ken?
I got my ways.
Hey, can we drink that?
Sure.
Well, Odell, we need to hear from your side. Should Billy tell his parents what's going on at this game?
Okay, you people heard it. Now we got liquor involved. Somebody might drive home drunk. What do you think? What's going on?
I think that Billy should tell, because if he doesn't grab a hold of the situation now, then it could lead into worse.
Think it gets worse? Okay. What do you think? Should Billy tell his parents at this point?
Yeah, I think he should, but I think he should also stay clear from his brother from now on, because obviously his brother's stupid enough to listen to his dumb friends, and that's just going to cause problems for him.
Well, we've got an expert on the subject, Dr. Gail Parker, who's going to see if there's anything we're leaving out. Doctor?
Well, I think you covered it pretty thoroughly, but let me just outline what I think needs to happen for you. A, Larry should never have allowed Billy to come to the game with them. B, now that Billy has been involved in a situation that really is way over his head, I really do think that he should find an adult, hopefully one of his parents, that he trusts, who he can tell, who will give him some ways of handling the situation, and also to help Larry. C, Larry should not have taken the drink. Because it's against the law, obviously, because it will impair his functioning as a driver, and he is responsible for his little brother. And D, I also think that Larry probably needs to question his friendship with Ken and choose friends who are willing to help him grow, not willing to help him do things that aren't in his best interest.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. And you guys out there, you're going to watch some more Club Connect.
Joining us now is psychologist Dr. Gail Parker, who says that cousins who fall in love may be stuck in adolescence. Really?
They may be.
How?
Yes. Well, first of all, there's an element of rebellion involved in cousins who fall in love and date and maybe even eventually marry, because it's not socially acceptable in our culture. And there are laws against it in some states in our culture. And so there's an element of danger. There, as I said, there is this element of rebellion that sort of smacks of adolescence. There is the couples that have talked so far have said that when they got started in secret. And they got started in secret, again, because it's not a socially acceptable relationship.
Well, let me tell you where it is legal, Dr. Parker. It is legal for first cousins to marry in 19 states. They're on your screen in the District of Columbia, yeah. Alabama, Alaska, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Vermont, and Virginia. It is legal. Now, in Wisconsin, if a woman is over 55 years of age, she can marry her first cousin. So all you 55-year-old women out there in Wisconsin, if you kind of like had a crush on your first cousin, you can go for it after 55. And that's because of childbearing, right? I assume.
Well, you know, I don't know. I really don't know why that would be in Wisconsin. I mean, the point is that in this culture, it is not something that has been socially acceptable. In some cultures, it is socially acceptable for cousins to marry, and in fact, it has been considered politically and economically correct. In royal families, it happened all the time. So objectively, I'm not convinced that there's anything objectively wrong with first cousins being romantically involved with each other, but in this culture, it creates a lot of turmoil and confusion and chaos, and that's what needs to be addressed.
It's the chaos and the turmoil and the confusion.
See, marriage in this culture really is, and I assume that they're dating for the purpose of wanting to find a spouse and coming together as married people. And so once you decide to make that step into marriage, what you've really done, it's kind of a rite of passage, what you've really done is declared your independence from your family of origin. Except if you're marrying somebody who's in your family, you're sort of half-stepping. You're not really
stepping out.
And
but this is the case, so tell me what you said to me during the commercial break, please.
Yes, I have two first cousins that were married in California. They're currently residing there. They're in their 70s now. They have a child, 50 or so, and they're very happy, and everything has worked out for them.
You were saying the reason that was is because they
were from different backgrounds.
In the same family?
In the same family. Yes, they're in the same family. Their mother and father were brother and sister.
Well, you see, I don't doubt that cousins who fall in love with each other and marry can be happy, but the issue becomes, how does it impact the rest of the family? Everyone here has said it doesn't matter, but it does matter.
Okay, it does matter?
Of course it matters.
Does it matter, Carla?
It matters. I want my family to be happy. I don't want to see them unhappy at all.
Okay, so are you willing to give him up so they can be happy?
I think they can be happy in spite of it.
Okay. Because, okay, so then you begin living your life then for your family, aren't you, Dr. Parker?
If you make a choice to marry someone that your family approves of? Not necessarily. No, that can be a very mature choice, because one of the things that you need to consider when you're thinking about getting married is how it's going to impact the people who are closest to you, your immediate family. And most people would prefer to be able to have comfortable relationships with their extended family once they get married.
Suppose you really are in love with someone, as is the case with these couples, and your family disapproves, but your heart tells you this is the person that should be your chosen mate. So then should you consider what your family is saying?
Yes, I think you should consider what your family is saying. You may go ahead and marry the person anyway, but you should consider what your family is saying, because it has an impact on you. It matters to you.
Okay, go ahead, stand up, say it. Your family's not the one that's marrying her.
Exactly. I don't disagree with that, but, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it because of your family, but it is a painful choice to have to make.
Because
and for
then
those
you separate yourself from the family.
You separate yourself from the family, or they have to separate from you, and that may be the decision that everybody makes.
Can you be happy with that decision? That's the question for both of you. If the family totally alienates itself from you and says, okay, you all go ahead and do that, we'll never speak to you again, can you live with that? We'll be back in a moment. Our next guests have all married their first cousins and have confronted the official issue of having children. Well, Sandy and Chris shocked their families 8 years ago when they were married. And meet Teresa and Michael, who eloped to Niagara Falls to avoid Niagara Falls? Okay, thank you. Avoid messy family problems at home. We're glad to have you join us. We're glad to... So you all attempted to have a child together, and the child died?
That's correct.
And then you were advised, what, not to have...
Not to. We had a 25, they said medically speaking, we had a 25% chance of having another child with polycystic kidney disease. And they said medically 10% was high. So they advised us not to. And so therefore we adopted.
And you're happy with it?
We are very happy. We have a beautiful little girl, and we adopted Lauren at 6 weeks old.
Now, how long have you been married?
8 years.
8 years. So when you first started going together, did you have the same problems that our couples earlier?
Yes.
Everything's pretty well identical to, you know, everything I've heard during the show is identical to what we've already been through.
Really? You've already been through that? So
Right.
families were upset?
The families were upset, mainly the fathers. Chris's father and my father are brothers. And we had one grandmother that was very much against it. And we tried to, we didn't intentionally fall in love. We started out, we weren't raised up just as cousins playing together.
I was raised in Charlotte, and she was raised in Statesville, so, you know, during the time we were growing up, there wasn't a lot of contact as far as, you know, cousins.
So when did the contact begin?
You were 19.
Well, I was 19, and she was, what, 25?
Right.
And so you all then saw each other and...
Well, he moved to Statesville, and we were attending the same church. And I
That'll
said...
do it every time.
In fact, we were just friends. We just got along, our chemistry mixed, we just talked, had fun.
Just seemed like everything just went, you know, we hit it off to begin with. You know, had a lot in common.
Well, because you're cousins.
Yeah, and I said, Chris, why don't we get together and go out, you know, since you're new, why don't we go out with some of my friends? Well, we ended up being together, not the friends.
And were you frightened at first?
Yes, we were very frightened. We tried to push one another. You know, I tried to push Chris away. He tried to push me away. I was going out with other people. You know, we were afraid because we didn't know any first cousins that were dating. And like I had friends that were trying to advise me, you know, you shouldn't be doing this. It's illegal in the state, which it was not illegal in the state of North Carolina. But at the time, it wasn't. And so we did continue to see each other secretly. We kept more to ourselves.
Which brings us back to the secretly thing.
Yes.
Ideally, marriage, and I'm sure you would agree, when you want to marry someone, you'd like that to be public. You would like to be able to share your joy and the pleasure that you gain from the relationship with everybody, and you want people to be happy for you. So when you make an unpopular choice, like marrying a first cousin, what you do is you end up depriving yourself of that, and that causes stress on the relationship that can make it more difficult than if you were...
Did it cause stress on your relationship?
I don't think it caused much because, like I said, you know, the main thing about a marriage, if love is there, that's what's going to make it work anyway. And if you don't have love, it doesn't matter, and we were happy.
We were happy, and eventually our brothers and sisters fully accepted it. From the beginning. But it was mainly a grandparent, our parents. But eventually, after we were married, they fully accepted everything.
What did you have to say? Yes, sir.
Well, as we go into the, how'd you go about telling your coworkers and your friends that you were having an affair or even engaged with your cousin, a relative?
Well, I was slow about telling my coworkers, but they accepted it. They were supportive.
You talked about it being secret. Don't you think if it had to be secret, there's maybe something wrong with that?
I think we were just frightened of what people, you know, because a lot of people are against it. You know, like they said, they think it's immoral, they think it's incest, but that's what frightened us. It wasn't us, you know, it was other people that frightened us.
You know, I think it's always an awkward situation, you know, when you're different. And I think this is, you know, kind of what it was. We were different from other people.
Okay, let's talk about all of the family pressures and stress that Dr. Parker has mentioned. So how did the family react when they found out you were going to have a child?
They weren't happy. They weren't happy. But
and what kind of stress has that put on your marriage?
It is. It's put quite a lot. Well, the whole episode of us getting married to begin with and through the child has really put a lot of stress on the family. I mean, it's not an easy thing. I mean, I think everybody here realizes it's not an easy thing, and people react to it differently. The only observation I would make is that people, before they make judgments about what's right and what's wrong, they should learn the truth. Because the truth of the matter is, you know, we can all say, well, I feel this way or that way, but unless you know the actual facts, what the genetic facts are, what the legal facts are, it's kind of dumb and ignorant to make judgments about things, especially if you don't know.
But there's another piece of truth that I think people need to know and that you've experienced and we're beginning to see, and there's a psychological truth.
Let's talk about that when we return. The psychological truth you were talking about?
Yes, and I think it's something that we need to take into consideration because that's what all of this emotion is about. Number one, the reason I said the relationships, at least in the beginning, smack of kind of an adolescent phase in development is the following. In adolescence, what we are trying to do is separate from our parents and become individuals at all costs. We don't care what other people think. We don't care what our parents think. The last thing in life we want to do is please them. And so we go against them, and that's age-appropriate behavior. What I'm hearing from these couples who are adults is that I don't care what other people think. It feels good to me. I want to do it, and we're in love. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you move into maturity, what you begin to say is, I do care, I care what I think and I care what I feel, but I also care what other people think. I care about what I do and how it affects other people. That's important. So they experience how what they have chosen to do affects other people.
How did you change your family's feelings? You said by the time you got married, they were more accepting. So how did you change their feelings?
We dated, for 5 years before we were married, and we've been married, right at 8 years now. And, like I've always figured, people are open-minded and, they truly love you. Sooner or later, time's going to heal all.
Well, sometimes that's true.
You guys are lucky, because, I mean, I do shows all the time where time hadn't healed one single thing.
And let me tell you what time, Oprah, let me tell you what time may not heal in these kinds of situations. What the couples have to understand, and I'm sure none of them thought about it going into it, is they're getting ready to marry, or they're in love with, your fathers were brothers.
Correct.
Now, what does that do to the brothers, who probably have a lot of sibling rivalry that's unresolved anyway? And you see, what happens is it begins to threaten the relationship between the brothers. It brings up all of their unresolved
Does it threaten it, or does it make it better?
I'm talking about between the brothers, the fathers, their two fathers. You see, plus the fact, the fathers are thinking, wait a minute, that's my niece, that's my nephew, this is my brother's child. It brings up a lot of confusion and a lot of chaos, and that's what happens when you make this kind of a choice. It can create chaos and confusion. It can be resolved, but it becomes very, very difficult. The way people try to resolve it is by controlling the couple.
So what did you all do? What did you do? Are your families still angry with you?
Oh, mine is. His family's more accepting than mine is.
Are the families fighting among each other?
No.
Okay, so they've really sort of kept the anger directed toward you.
Yeah, basically.
And so that separates you from your family. And I'm sure that on some level that's painful. I'm sure you would rather have it be different than that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And so in this case, this may be a situation where it won't be resolved.
You all, did you say your grandparents married?
Yes.
And then you all married?
Yes.
And you all are cousins, and your grandparents were cousins?
Yes.
His grandparents were first cousins.
Were first cousins?
And they had 5 healthy children. No genetics at all.
Okay, we'll be back in a moment. And so you all married, and you all are first cousins?
We're second cousins, but his grandparents legally adopted him and raised him, which made him legally my first cousin as well as my second cousin.
Legally?
And being that his grandparents were first cousins also makes him my third cousin, so.
It's a triple cousin kind of thing.
Very confusing.
But you never had any problems? No?
No, other than my mother.
Your mother didn't like
My
it?
mother, even up to this past weekend.
And how long have you been married?
7 years in
7.
June.
Mm.
It could be 100 years and I would still hear it from her. So.
Because why? She thinks it's morally wrong.
No, she's just, I don't know if she really thinks that it's morally wrong, because in the family we've had several, you know, that's married like that. If he was a millionaire, she wouldn't mind. You know.
Oprah?
Yes?
Let me say something else about your situation. Another reason this smacks of adolescence to me, and a concern is that you get stuck there, is because when you marry, ideally you want to have some privacy. You see, that's your intimate relationship, and you don't want your family involved. When you choose to marry somebody in the family, it almost invites intrusions from family members who are going to have strong feelings and want to have something to say about it.
No.
No? Family stays out of your business?
They don't have much of a choice.
They don't. We're close, but they don't interfere in our lives.
They don't?
No.
Initially, they tried everything they could to break us apart.
Okay, thank you all very much. Yes, yes, ma'am.
I'm all for everyone being happy and being in love and whatnot. I think this group has taken a more mature view. This couple, I'm very happy that you're happy, but you've made a choice for your children as far as genetic happenings for them.
How?
In that their children are going to have more of a genetic defect because of their decision.
Obviously, you weren't listening to the geneticist.
Because your child has no genetic defects that you know of.
None whatsoever. When he gets married and has children, when the child gets married,
Won't it be part of his history, that child's history?
Okay.
that child has a greater percentage of having a genetic defect on the children that he has. Your baby's children.
Miss Geneticist, explain this to us. Yes.
I'd like to just comment on what you just mentioned. If the child is born and does not have a genetic condition, he's not going to be, or she, at increased risk to have a baby with a genetic condition. However, if that child is born with some type of genetic condition or has inherited 2 genes from the parents, then that
They can
child
pass
would
it
be
on.
at risk.
But if the child doesn't have it, the
Then-
child then can, unless the child then marries
There's a
another
first
cousin,
cousin,
and then
exactly.
or relative, and then that comes from that bond.
Right.
Not from what the child already has.
Right.
Shouldn't they also be tested, like when, like if the child grows up and decides to marry and is afraid of, isn't there tests that can be run just to make sure for their own self-satisfaction?
Again, only if you know the history, only if there is some condition that you know about. If there is no history and the child or the individual doesn't show any problems, then there isn't a specific test.
Okay. Dr. Parker, did you want to say something?
No, I didn't. I'm
Oh.
sorry.
Okay, you
I
look
guess I
like
got
you
a
did.
signal
We'll be
through.
right back. Okay.
My question was, are there any statistics available on divorced cousins?
What happens in divorce? And I know this lady happened to marry, you married your cousin and divorced.
Yeah, we got married, and we have a daughter. She's now 25, and we got divorced.
So what happens in the family when you divorce?
That was the main reason the first time we got the divorce, because the family did not accept that, and I think it's wrong. I don't really think it's anybody's business.
You don't?
No.
So you got divorced because of the pressure from the family?
It was very bad, yeah.
And then you married him again?
Yeah, then we come here in the States, and we married before we come here, and we was 2 years married, and we got the divorce. But somehow the damage was done because the closeness was not here anymore.
Uh-huh.
But it is very, very wrong. Anybody, you know, if they want to, he's a very nice man, and we're very good friends, and there's no reason why not.
Okay, that's a good point. What was that point? Make the point.
He already belongs to her. If he's her cousin, why marry him? You know, then you wouldn't have the problem with the family.
I don't know. I don't know. What do you say, Dr. Parker?
I say that once a couple decides to make the choice, even after the family has made their objections known, if there are objections, then the family has to respect the couple's choice and leave them alone as adults.
Okay. Guests of our show fly.
talking to mistresses who are going to give us some advice. But before we continue, Nancy, you had something you wanted to say. I'll let you finish what you want to say.
Yeah, I was just thinking, Jenny, you know, you get a few laughs here when I say I'm currently involved with married men. But, you know, I've never met this woman. It could be one of your husbands, one of you ladies. This lady does not realize that her husband, of course, is having an affair. She thinks he's all mine. She thinks he's faithful, but he could be your husband. Absolutely.
What you want to say?
I said, in her dreams, it's my husband.
You think so? You think so? You don't know.
You want to? Okay. You audience wants to talk? I'll give you a chance to talk. What do you want to say?
First of all, when she said that for 10 years, a man that goes out with a woman as yourself for 10 years, and he's got a wife at home, then I just want to know, what are you getting out of this? You know he's not going to marry you. For the most part, holidays, you're out. Unless it's money, if the man has some kind of money and he's offering you some kind of, as far as material things. But I have a close friend who has been through something like that, and it's people like you that make it possible for those guys to leave their homes, forget that they have children, and forget that they have families and obligations.
What are you getting out of this, Nancy?
That's an interesting point. I have been on both sides of the barrel. I've been married twice. Both husbands fooled around on me. And, of course, I was the innocent, naive wife. I didn't realize this. But now I'm on the other side. Now I'm on the other side of the fence.
Does this mean you're retaliating? Is that what you're doing?
Well, no, not really. Like I said, it's convenient fare. I'm comfortable with this fare. I don't have to look at this man every morning to make his breakfast and do his laundry. But yet I get birthday presents and Christmas presents and sweetest day and all this business. And I see him when I want to see him. It's convenient, as I said.
But you don't have any guilt about this?
I have no guilt at all because I don't feel like his wife is getting hurt.
If you're going to feel guilty, you shouldn't have an affair.
True.
Plain and simple. You should go into an
True.
affair totally realistically. You're a fool if you expect a married person, male or female, to spend their holidays with you, their weekends. That is just not the reality of the situation. But if you go into an affair and you say to yourself, I'm going to enjoy this person's company while I have the chance, I'm going to learn, I'm going to laugh, I am going to have a good time, guilt-free, and you take your appropriate steps for discretion, sexual precaution, then you might
Does
as well
that mean
go for
that
it.
women who have affairs are without conscience?
No, it does not. I think that a lot of women who choose to have an affair think very seriously about the emotional consequences and, you know, the health consequences, the social consequences, and there are some. And unfortunately, in our culture, there are still more consequences for women who do this than for men who do this. And I think the response of this audience is a perfect example to that. If there were men up here talking about their affairs, I doubt that we would be getting the gasps, the oohs, and the horrified looks that I saw rolling towards the stage when Nancy spoke.
Well, we will give you a chance to talk, but my next guest says that May, Arlene, and Nancy are the typical other woman. Believe it or not, it's no longer the drop-dead gorgeous 22-year-olds who are out there stealing your man. It's the women in their 30s, 40s, and even 50s. They may not be Marla Maples lookalikes, but they're willing to give men what they aren't getting at home. Please welcome Dr. Gail Parker. Tell us first, if you can, why these women are typical. Has it changed? Because this is not what I was expecting to see today.
Yeah, this is typical. I mean, women have fantasies that when their husbands are having an affair or their boyfriends, they have fantasies that it's someone who is absolutely spectacular looking, absolutely brilliant, absolutely wonderful in every way, and they compare themselves to the imagined person that their husband is having an affair with, and usually the wife who is not having the affair feels like she doesn't measure up. And in reality, the people who are having affairs are everyday people like you and me who come in all sizes,
Do you think they're being
shapes,
honest about not feeling guilty? That's really hard to hear, that they seem to have no guilt about it.
I think they're being completely honest about not feeling guilty, and I think you need to listen to that. I think every one of us needs to hear and understand that there is no guilt. What I think is true, I think one of the things that is typical of people who choose to have affairs with married people is that usually it's motivated by self-interest, and every single one of these women has said so. There is a selfish reason for getting involved with a married person, and the fact that the man is married makes it even easier because they don't have to give in the same way that you have to give when you're living with someone every day.
That's just what Nancy said. You don't have to make him breakfast. Right. You don't have to look at him every morning.
Exactly.
And he doesn't have to give to you.
Do you feel selfish? Would you call yourself selfish? It's not the worst thing to be, but...
I would. I think enlightened selfishness is critical to survival in this world. I'm not talking about being totally selfish. I am not talking about not giving and loving, but what I'm talking about is the preservation of your own happiness, your self-image, your mental health.
Yeah.
I began a relationship with a man who was separated from his wife and said he was getting a divorce, and became real good friends. I lent him money. He offered to marry me. And now I can't get a hold of him. He's moved back in with his wife and his 9-year-old daughter. Yeah. Don't the lies bother you? All they do is lie. If they can lie to their wives, they're going to lie to you.
But they're not lying, right?
But they would have to be lying to be with you.